Okay, now it's working.
And that, like there'd be welcome to the weeks. A lot of not going to be ever different. Okay.
Joanne on the left here, Brian. Joanne's a cross-dresser. Is she gay? She's not gay?
I love that this stuff. But there are people who really just
She's anatomically a man, you know. You know that. All right, here's an...
again. I think so many wouldn't use it. Not violent. What do you?
Here's... Now, wait a minute. Here's Ruby Rims, Mr. Ruby Rims. Mr. A female impersonator for 17 years. Is Ruby gay? No? All right, show him Eve Golden. Eve Golden is a transsexual. Is Eve gay?
Say Say up, she gay.
Nick DiTullio is here, also a transsexual. All right, you from female to male. And
That girl said, give me some of that female. It looks right now. I'm sure.
And finally, here is Lynn Edward Harris, a hermaphrodite. You know what that means? You don't know what that means? I'll tell you everything I know about this. It'll take me 10 seconds. Lynn Harris was born and raised a girl. You won the Miss Newport Beach contest in 1968 in good old Orange County, California. Boy, wait till you hear this. You lived as a woman to the age of 29, and then you switched to living as a man. He has the anatomical characteristics of both a man and a woman. If I'm lying, I'm dying.
So also wanted to hermaphrodite. They like both. I don't think, my understanding, I've only ever read history. Is more accurate. But they use and the trans people on this panel unfazed. Just noticing this. Really all I'm doing is studying the art.
Are you thrilled you came to this show today?
Yes.
You want tickets for tomorrow? Here's what's not so funny. These live, irreplaceable sons and daughters of God, human beings, Paul, want you to know, among other things, that that's exactly what they are, human beings, and there's an awful lot of nervousness attending to their particular personal situations, which provoke a lot of prejudice.
Thank you. So well said. So simple.
The whole point, the whole fuel of prejudice is ignorance and fear, and we're hoping we can do something about that ignorance today. Let's start with Lynn, the hermaphrodite, right? You have, first of all, you noticed as a child that you have a vagina and a clitoris which began to develop into a stunted penis. How am I doing so far in our adult program here?
Well, so far, so good.
All right, well,
I have a...
You're doing such a good job. I feel like you said this.
I was born with a biological anomaly. It's called Stein-Leventhal syndrome, and it's common to about 1 in 10,000 newborns. And I have a very stunted set of internal female organs, and as I went through puberty, my external male genitalia began to develop.
Excuse me, you went through puberty as a girl. You're a high school girl.
Yes, but I never developed the curved torso or the bust development or the monthly cycle that girls did.
All right, you were about to say, as you went
And meanwhile, my voice dropped lower than most boys in my class, and I began shaving from age 15.
Do you have ovaries?
They're so small.
15 is
Small and cyst encrusted, they're hardly worth mentioning.
Well, but
and my womb is...
Well, we weren't asking you to enter a contest.
No.
But
I don't think...
crusty. It's just so funny.
I think I'd
it's all right to laugh.
anyway.
These are adults too. It's all right. Humor will get us through. It's not an unimportant point here. I mean, this is a part of a very real dilemma in which you found yourself as a child, early adolescent, hardly prepared to deal with this kind of pressure. We should say your father was a character actor. You grew up in Hollywood, didn't you?
Yes, that's true.
Your father was a character actor and not altogether that home that much in the kind of irregular life that most actors lead. So
Right.
your mother, as you tell us, was a moral Roman Catholic. And you wanted to be sent to the doctor, didn't you? You saw what was going on or felt it or...
I was very curious as a child. I knew I was different inside and out. And all I wanted was to get some answers because I was not developing typically as a normal female. And yet I was having the urges of a young boy. So it was after a couple visits to specialists. And my mother, frankly, she said, let nature...
I do. obviously very get happens a lot. Why did they? Yeah.
Nature take its course.
Well, she obviously had to be scared to death. I mean, come
Well,
on.
she was, and
She didn't want to deal with this, right? Isn't that
didn't want to deal with it, but both my parents wanted only daughters and no sons. So it turns out I'm the son that she never had and never wanted.
How she lives?
Yes.
And how's it going with Mom?
She and I have come to a reckoning, and I did live as a female for the first 29 years, and for the past 10 years I've lived as a man. And she chooses to consider that I do not exist these past 10 years, and that to live with my old portfolio and pictures as a girl, that is how she wishes to deal with
You're her daughter, and don't argue about it.
She at one time told me,
Imagine. As a clearly long enough, you know.
Phil, you're still, after 29 years living as a female, why bother to change? You're still a she. You're
Right.
still my daughter.
But I don't want to mislead this audience. You still see her, right? Or is it a
Yes,
total...
we speak on occasion.
I see. So it's not a total estrangement.
Oh,
then?
no.
Now, let's just get back to the anatomy here. You have the legacy of how shall we put the legacy of ovaries. You know,
Yes.
you say they're small and they're immature, whatever you want to say.
It's very infantile development of the male and female organs both.
You have had no surgery at all. You've transected nothing.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you have a uterus? Is there any...
Yes, a normal size uterus would be the size of a pear, and mine, it was said to be the size of a walnut. A normal size ovary would be the size of an almond. Mine's the size of a pea.
Pretty crazy.
Did you flow? Did you have any menses? Did you have menses when you were 13 or whenever?
I had very rare occasional spotty bleeding, but it didn't constitute a monthly menstrual cycle, ever.
And no breast?
No, to this day, my chest remains flat as it is today.
But you're proud of that?
I'm very proud of it.
You want to be a man?
At one
Lucky.
point, I tried to costume my exterior. As nature began virilizing my body and I became more masculinized naturally, I said, no, I've been raised as a female. This is my role in society, and I'm going to do my best and join the beauty contests and win the college scholarship and all this.
Yeah.
And so as I was costuming the exterior, people would say, well, you really are a man in drag, aren't you? And so I went through another 10 years of hearing all of these comments until finally I crossed the gender line cold turkey.
Right.
And a very close friend of mine who's an intuitive counselor said, I know you've been so unhappy living as a female. Could you do any worse living as a man in society? And I started to shake so violently and cry. I said, it never crossed my mind that I had this option.
So
Holy sh... Yes. Yes. Obviously, this... Like, they're... But, like, at the 28 to 20... Oh, year. Someone just said. I've heard people say part of very interesting.
You came out of an imaginary closet.
I was the most self-deluded person alive.
I appreciate very much your honesty, Lynn. And with time getting the best of us here, there's not too many yes and no answers with this issue. I understand that. Just a couple brief.
I wonder if he changed.
Show them pictures. Maybe I already did, and I wasn't watching the Donahue show. So let's show them again. Show this audience. There you are. You're 17 here.
No, this
what are you?
was age 29.
So,
27
Not look
rather. It was 2 years before I elected to live as a social male.
this was 1977.
That's right.
Are there others? Can you show us? There you are.
This was 1967.
At age 17.
Yes. Costa Mesa Junior Miss.
Costa Mesa Junior Miss.
And I currently was Miss Tinsel, voted by the,
you have that? There you are, Miss
the
Tinsel.
mayor and the city council for their Christmas festivities.
I've heard of this. Spotty. Oh. Damn it. That is really frustrating because my mic is just. My mic was just not in front of my face, so that's really depressing. My bad. That really sucks significantly, and yep, that is annoying. Only 15 minutes in. Hopefully, it has not been that terrible.
All right, don't leave it.
But real quick, I want to re-record an introduction, basically really quick. That we're taking a look at this episode. Taking a look at kind of like how trans representation has changed through the ages, how the language has changed through the ages, and how does that impact us today? How does it impact us today? Those are the questions. Thank you again, Blue, for letting me know about the audio issues.
Give us Lynn Edward Harris. This audience wants to talk to you. First, let me say before we talk to these other guests, Lynn Huffman is here. You are family counselor for the Gender Identity Clinic. This is not that rare.
That's right.
How many for hermaphrodites? One in what?
Oh, very small percentage, about 1 in
I would say 1 in 10, 1 in 5 to 10,000,
Right.
and if it's an extremely rare case, it would be 1 in 170,000.
But usually they're corrected at birth, Phil, and many times
Corrected how?
if an infant is born with a clitoris that's enlarged, that looks like a penis, it's usually amputated to make that child female.
Does it work?
Usually, because the child is then raised as a female and doesn't have to go through much of this.
Is there a biohormonal chemical?
But if it's the brain chemistry that dictates
Sometimes.
one thing, and the penis could be 10 inches
True.
long
That's
or
true. That's
completely
true. That's true.
excised,
That's
what is
true.
the brain chemistry, the life sex of the
Hold
thing,
on.
and
Guys. Shh, listen. I don't know, I'm just so
Go
fascinated.
through
But is there
much of this.
Is there a biohormonal chemical?
but if it's the brain
Sometimes.
chemistry that
Okay. So, biohormonal chemical, I think he's talking about gender and sex, is this whole configuration, and he's talking about how the physical aspects are impacting the way that this person sees themselves. Now let's listen.
dictates
Sometimes.
one thing, and the penis could be 10 inches
True.
long
That's true.
or
That's
completely
true. That's true.
excised.
That's
What is
true.
the brain chemistry, the life sex of
Well,
the person?
Right.
that's
What is, I think, and that's it. What is the brain chemistry telling you? What is the brain, the sex that is like your actual sex communicating to you? Like, if your brain is communicating to you something is a little bit off and I'm not enjoying living life this way, living life as the opposite sex could be helpful for that individual. And like he just said, it doesn't matter how large, you can have the biggest, what is your brain telling you? Like, if your brain is communicating something different, that's what I'm hearing him say right now.
the
But the
question.
hormones influence the brain chemistry, and the
Exactly.
hormones are anatomically originated
That's
in
right.
some cases.
That's right. But it's a
Yeah,
gender.
let's just understand this.
It's a gender.
I believe that's true. I believe that hormones do have some impact on brain chemistry. But I'm not sure how significant it is, like post-transition or anything like that. I would need to look further into it.
Gender issue.
Okay, I get it. It's also a terribly personal psychiatric.
All of these issues will be impacted upon by the society and the family
Right.
and the way in which the individual suffers,
Right.
because all of these people suffer.
Now let's go to school now on reproductive biology. First 6 weeks in the uterus, we are
All
girls.
female.
Girls.
All female.
XX.
XX.
Then comes 6 weeks and the big hormones come. You know all this, huh? I wish I had time for my whole lecture, but you know, it's now comes the hormones in 6 weeks, and for boys comes the testosterone and other things, turns into the vaginal area begins to develop a penis.
More difficult to be a male than a female.
More complicated, isn't
More
it?
complicated.
So we shouldn't be surprised
Okay.
when we see other things that go awry in utero, cleft
Exactly.
palate, all the things that can happen, the failure to this,
Right.
that for some of us, we get the cellular division a little bit mutated and goes awry somewhere, and some people are born hermaphrodite where you've got the
Right.
actual chromosomal legacy of both male and
Yes.
female.
Yes, but there are still questions
True.
about a lot of it.
Having your parents
I do believe that that's true, that you can have You can have multiple different types of chromosomes. I'm not sure if we're all born with XX chromosomes. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but whatever. Yeah, I still can't get over the word hermaphrodite. People in my country still use it, even with all the education we're given. And that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like humans can't be hermaphrodites. It's just not biologically accurate for our species. Like, it's just not possible, at least so far, in terms of what we've been able to record. So there could have been an unrecorded whatever in the past, but I think it's just because of, I don't know, lack of education and updated information.
To make a decision at birth whether you're going to be male or female. I think that's going to cause a lot of problems for the child when they grow up, like you.
50, if there was any ambiguity about the newborn's genitalia, any question at all, they just threw a pink blanket over it and labeled it female. And then let us grow up and let nature take its course.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I forgot to comment on the fucking genital surgeries of children. Let's take a second. Let's just take a quick second and rant about this for a little bit. Because right now, we're living in a world where it's better to, like we're talking about, we don't want any surgery for the kids. Get those kids out from under the knife. Don't be touching their genitals when they're kids. Oh, really? You don't want us to be touching their genitals. So can all the doctors now stop doing unnecessary surgeries on intersex kids? Could you just quit? Like, I don't see anybody advocating for that. I see them advocating for this only to reinforce this binary, this very strict binary, where your sex must look like this. Your clitoris must look like this to be a girl's clitoris. Like, bonkers. You know what I mean? And obviously I understand that there are typical things. Like, it is atypical. Yeah, of course. But I guess, like, it shouldn't be seen as a problem. And I think that's where we're at right now. That children, babies who are born, who are intersex, who have a little bit of a difference, are surgically operated on. And like I said, does it work all the time? It doesn't work all the time. Obviously, there are some, what are those called? Failures, botched surgeries that could impact a child. I know that. I've seen it from other people who grew up and they found out that they were operated on as a child. They didn't know. Like, imagine being a trans mask person or something and discovering that you were operated on as a child. You know how devastating that would be? Devastating. Like, crazy. So, yeah, this is, to me, reinforcing, like, I guess let's just let kids be kids. Let them be themselves wherever they are. Ugh.
Course and do with our lives as we may, and the doctors just would wash their hands of it and say, let some other doctor deal
It
with
was easier to do it surgically.
We'll be back in a moment.
Lynn looks pissed. And also she said it's easier. Easier for who? Easier for the medical field, easier for you to fit into the world, easier for you to conform, easier for everybody else. Is it easier for you, though? For the person, for the individual? I will state that perhaps it could be easy for some individuals, like if maybe they're born with some type of difference of sexual development and they are a female, but they really want to be a girl. Maybe it could be more beneficial for them to have a surgery like that to correct the size of their, genitals to make it for them to feel more confident or something as a female or whatever. I'm sure that exists, but I feel like people should be able to make those decisions as adults and not be forced into them as babies, Yeah, no one talks about the long-term, thank you, Blue. No one talks about the long-term effects of the complications of those infant genital surgeries. So, guys, whenever people talk about them operating on the kids, the trans kids, I'm going to say, bet, cool, but also the infants that are being operated on to be traditionally, to be sexed correctly, because we can't tolerate ambiguous genitals. That's literally where we're at. We're at a spot where we literally cannot tolerate ambiguous genitals of an individual. That's crazy. Crazy. Okay.
Here, let's talk to you, Nick. Nick DeTulio, transsexual. You were a woman for how long? You completed your surgery 5 years ago, that's all.
I started 15 years ago, and started 17 years ago, and it was completed 5 years ago.
Uh-huh. You look...
Dude, congrats, man. That's awesome. 15 years ago. Oh, I would imagine he looks like he could be in his 30s or 40s, so maybe in his mid 20s or when he was 15 or something like that he started. Who knows? Maybe
Very
he'll
male.
say more.
Mustache and all. So you
Like, I know that this stuff like it's not the most important thing in the world to always pass and stuff, but he looks fucking great. Looks amazing. Okay, what do you say? You know, hold on a second. How can I? Okay, you know, in some countries, the doctor makes the decision without consultation of the parents. Really? That's crazy and disturbing. That should not obviously not be allowed.
lived as a female for how long?
For 28 years.
Okay.
Uh,
Guys, look at like. I'm also very interested in these older transitioning individuals. So far, both over the age of 20, 25. There is a trans female who's going to be speaking soon, so I am waiting to hear from her as well. Interesting stuff. I don't know why this is so interesting and exciting.
You all through those 28 years, you wanted to be a man. Do I understand that?
Yes.
And you have, as you've established, the surgery, and it's more than one procedure, isn't it?
Yes, several steps.
So you, I assume, did you surgically remove your breasts, or was that done hormonally?
That was done surgically.
Surgically.
Yes.
You had a bilateral mastectomy?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just also do some educating. You cannot necessarily hormonally remove if you have a large amount of breast tissue. If you have a small amount of breast tissue, sometimes, and you catch it and you like transition early enough, sometimes individuals are able to kind of like broaden their chest, and testosterone can kind of stop the development and kind of like, I don't know, flatten the appearance of your chest a little bit. So there are some people who can get away with not ever having any surgery. So yeah, I agree with you, Blue. He looks amazing. So I don't know. I'm like, obviously he's a grown ass man. He doesn't need any of my support, but he looks so great, and it's just so exciting to, yeah. Anyway, whatever.
You had a hysterectomy?
Yes.
The ovaries gone too?
Everything.
And you had a reconstructed vaginal area, is that right?
Yes.
As well as a surgically constructed male genitalia.
Yes. Everything.
Okay, so he's had phalloplasty. I was wondering what type of surgery he had, and he's gotten phalloplasty.
You have, I have.
You see, if you applaud this kind of...
I love this so much because it's like a little bit awkward and a little bit like I don't know, it's just very unusual. This is just an unusual conversation. So I hope that they're having as much fun as I am.
I certainly...
You can't make a baby. Tell him, Nick.
That's true.
Okay. Well, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just, we got to know this. Nobody's able to do that yet.
Right.
You could have conceived as a woman, though, right? You had all the...
Yes. But I was sterile.
You were sterile. You, as a hermaphrodite, you were sterile. Very good.
Lots of individuals with intersex conditions are sterile.
Are you gay, Nick?
No, I'm not.
No, you're not. You're erotically attracted to women.
Yes.
Are you single?
Yes.
Have there been women in your...
Yeah. So, for example, like the question that they asked in the beginning, is he gay? And some of them were like, yes or no. Like he's a straight man, like straight man. I think that's what he's trying to communicate. I know the discomfort. Yeah, he's like, you're doing, yeah, he's doing great though.
In your license this time, it's, there's no constitutional obligation.
You could, like, it just, like, for example, I don't know if it's because Lynn has had history being on stage, but he has a better stage presence, more confidence, and more projecting in his voice compared to Nick. Not in a bad way. I'm just noticing things.
Answer these questions.
Yes, there has been.
There has been, and it was a mutually satisfying relationship.
Yes.
So, okay. Now, as you know, you're sitting next to Eve. Eve went the other way.
Yes.
Okay, boy, you're going to need mirrors for this one.
We could plug the right parts in the right people. It would make it much easier.
Yes, it would. It's a lot more complicated.
Yep.
All right, Eve, me and you completed surgery in '78 when you were 21 years old, right?
That's
so
right.
So you spent your first 21 years as a boy, young man, adolescent.
I started cross-dressing when I was 20, and you...
Okay. There you go. So she seemed to be the earliest transitioner out of all of them so far. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if Nick, he didn't say when he started to, like, dress like a boy. But yeah, like, similar to a lot of trans people, I definitely noticed a shift in my, like, how I presented and dressed when I started to kind of really get a little more serious about the fact that I was, like, starting a transition. So I understand, like that you kind of dip your toe into the water. You try something a little bit, like cross dressing, for example. And I'm guessing maybe that gave her the confirmation that this was the right direction to go.
It's very important to cross-dress for at least a year before surgery to make sure that that's right for you.
And also, guys, this is also, I would say, a little bit older information. We typically don't say stuff like this in the medical field anymore. It's not as required to live that long. But, excuse me, I'm just a therapist, but I would definitely say that living as your assigned gender before you take surgical steps is a very reasonable, to me, very reasonable like barrier. What's a little less reasonable is the inability to access care, like for example, to access a therapist who would write you the letter. Like that's another thing. But to give yourself the time to see if transition is the right thing for you is really important. Yeah.
So I had the surgery shortly after my 21st birthday.
Okay, all your life you felt this as a kid? I don't know.
Always, as far back as I can remember.
And what a decision, surgery.
It was never a decision. From the minute I heard that it was even possible as a child, I knew that was for me. And some people who say, well, if you were attracted towards men and you thought you were a woman, why didn't you just not have the surgery and live your life as a gay man? But it's important to realize that who you are and who you sleep with are two very different things. Sleeping with men does not make you a woman. Sleeping with farm animals doesn't make you a sheep.
That's fucking hilarious. But true. You know what I'm saying? Like, who you sleep with does not tell you who you are. So like, yeah, why can't you just be a really, really, really masculine girl? Why can't you just be a really feminine guy? Just be gay. Just be gay. It's like, I'm sorry, that's not it. That's not who I am. That's not it. That's not all it is.
That's
it's all within your own mind who you are.
We do humor when we do the surgery as well.
We do humor, yes. You transplant the humor.
Right.
Eve, one of the points you want to make, you're tired. You feel that, first of all, let me say what we already know, having discussed this before on our show. This is really big league, and in some cases, certainly early on, heroic surgery, and an enormously courageous decision on the part of apparently countless numbers of men and women around the world. This is real. This is very personal. It involves the soul, the spirit, the personality, the emotions, everything. And among other things, you're tired about the kooky...
I need, for a second, like, to see someone literally just speak so elegantly to how much it takes for a trans person to transition, actually. Like, that actually is kind of really amazing to me. That he's able to really, it seems like he's able to respect how serious of a decision this is for people, how deeply personal this decision is, how hard it can be for some people. But I'm curious as to what Eve's complaint is.
The presentation of your own particular personal medical profile that is presented on television. How am I doing?
I understand how it is a bizarre situation from somebody who's never gone through it. I appreciate the humor of it. A lot of it was funny, and you have to be able to laugh at it.
That attitude, I believe, is more necessary today. Like being able to have lightness around the topic, even like being able to carry both, I think, heaviness and lightness. And that might just be a personal thing for me. I think that joking and levity helps get through some of these periods of discomfort. But yeah.
I read in a magazine once where transsexuals were described as exotic, otherworldly beings. And I thought to myself, I'm about as exotic and otherworldly as Velveeta. I mean, I'm a very normal, run-of-the-mill, everyday person. And that's something people, I think, should realize, that we're not these bizarre creatures from outer space.
Right. And your erotic interest is in the male of the species.
Yes.
I could say some comments about that some, there are some things that, like, people associate with transness that is not associated with transness, that are like people who are otherkin or something like that. I would not say that otherkin has anything to do with being trans, but some people might see that and say like, oh, that's also trans. That line is still used today. I guess the trans phobes still have the same question from now. Yeah. A lot of these questions I don't think have changed. This idea that I think trans people are very like odd and bizarre and weird people, and are othered generally, is very toxic.
And apparently always was.
Yes.
Through adolescence. So you must have thought you were gay.
When I was little, I did. I didn't understand the difference until I started doing some reading on my own.
Counseling helps with that. I mean, we have people in counseling for 2 years.
Yeah.
So that we work through the crazies, the psychotics, the people who are homophobic.
Okay, well that's interesting. The crazies and I mean, that's interesting language for a therapist to use. I don't appreciate therapists. I would never talk about anybody like that. client like that. Crazy. I personally wouldn't. But to weed through people who are, for example, like if you are in a psychotic episode, that might not be the best time to transition. Like you can wait, or like yeah, there are times where it might not be. And to seek medical care, seek therapeutic care is
We really weed out inappropriate people for surgery.
There are a lot of gay people, unfortunately, who are not comfortable with being gay within themselves and feel that a sex change would be right for them.
Right.
And it's more important that they learn how to be comfortable within themselves for what they are.
So you have then voluntarily submitted to a...
and I would say that like that idea doesn't make sense to me exactly because I guess yeah, like it can be, for example, like just as not toxic but just hated upon to be trans. So that type of idea, I don't see that making sense to me, at least. Like being both trans and, to me, both of them seen as disgusting, evil things. So they were equally bad in my head. Not one of them wasn't really worse than exactly. Not really.
surgery that is essentially castration.
Yes, basically.
And have you enhanced your breasts with just pads, huh?
No, nothing. Hormones takes care of all that.
Oh, so biochemically, you got breasts.
Yes.
How did you do electrolysis or any of that stuff?
Yes, I went through electrolysis for a few years, but basically the
So you have
surgery
no
is
beard
all
then?
done. No beard.
No beard. All right.
A full beard a month ago.
Yeah, well,
But
and you've got a very substantial mustache there.
Yes, and thank you. I had always disavowed the need for plastic surgery because of the possible risks of mutilation, disfigurement, or foreign implants. It wasn't necessary, and it wasn't my objective.
Okay. Okay.
I don't agree with Lynn on that. Probably because I backed away from my mic a little bit. Thank you for letting me know. So, like, okay, so I'll say this. I agree that surgery is very risky, and I would not approach surgery. You are very aware of all of the risks. You are very aware of the mental load that surgery takes. With transition, you have to be aware. You have to pay attention. You have to be vigilant, I guess, of these things and really think about it before you go into it. And I'm not a person who's ever going to refer to it as mutilating your body or anything like that. I would say that there are, like, people have botched surgeries all the time. Like, someone says that they, are trained in top surgery, but they really weren't. Maybe they've only done, what are they called? Mastectomies, which are different. And maybe they do your surgery and you feel that your body has been, like botched or something. Like, that is a real possibility. I don't know what that noise is. Weirding me out. Okay. So yeah. I don't appreciate that type of language, but I understand the sentiment.
Hey, Mr. Ruby Rims, I don't know how you're going to follow this. I'll tell you,
Carefully.
this ought to be easy. You're a female impersonator. You have been for 17 years. You do it for entertainment. So, that's why you do it. And
I have a great time. Mostly everyone that comes to see me enjoys it. And basically, if you would ask me if I were gay or whatever, my answer to you would be, what difference does it make?
oh, come on, we want to know. We're curious. It's all right. It doesn't necessarily be speaker prejudice. We are trying to understand this, although I respect very much the reason for your statement. We don't ask that. We're not so curious about so-called straights. You do this as entertaining. You liked it. You're a male person.
I like that. The straights. This is not as... We're interested in the gays. We know all about the straights.
Who has no interest anatomically. You're a male person. You're comfortable in your male body. You spend most of your time, what, in a suit and tie? I don't know.
No, in jeans and a sweatshirt.
Okay. But you are a gay person, if I...
I am a gay person.
Uh-huh. And you're next to Joanne, who is... the
real pervert on the panel.
The real pervert. You got to have one...
I'm obsessed, by the way, with her energy. I am.
Pervert for show, or you can't survive out here. Joanne, you are a cross-dresser. What's the difference between a cross-dresser and a female impersonator?
Actually, I'm a transvestite. I cross-dress, Ruby cross-dresses. There's some people in the audience who cross-dress. Cross-dressing is an activity. What makes me different, what makes me a transvestite, is that I do it for psychological satisfaction. I do it for erotic reasons. I do it for emotional pleasure.
This anatomical man, take it...
Interesting. Wow. So like, okay, so the idea of transitioning, providing not, I guess sexual was there, but psychological pleasure. Is that adjacent to like gender euphoria? I'm not sure. And like, by the way, this is not a criticism to anyone. Like, I don't um like, you know, if I don't remember the names, but if the one who says she's a cross-dresser wants to be used, go by she, her, I'm going to use she, her. You know what I mean? And it seems like they have been using she, her for her on the panel. But I appreciate the honesty and the openness of these people. Like, a lot less sensitive than I think we are today. I mean, hey, but I also understand why that happens. Um, thanks, Lynn, is it Lillian? Hello, Lillian. Language that has been allowed, quote unquote, to be spoken about has really changed a lot over the years. Absolutely. And Blue says, the folks of intersex, the perspective of intersex folks to trans folks is different when it comes to surgery. That is a great perspective as well, Blue. I think, for example, even maybe the triggering nature of like gender related surgeries as the threat of having a surgery on an intersex child exists, so you might have a different mindset around it. That is a fantastic perspective, Blue. Thank you.
Victor Brian is married and has children. Married to
Did someone say, what? I think I heard that. They go, what? Ah, no.
a woman and has biologically fathered children that, yes, they know and they love him very much. And I assume that occasionally you'll go, you know, out dressed like this, huh?
Oh, yes, I go out a lot. I do.
How about you go out with your wife?
Yes,
No
I've
kidding.
been out with my wife in other cities.
Yeah. Does she didn't know when she married you?
No, she did not.
Well, this was a pretty big punch.
Interesting. So it doesn't seem like she goes out like in her own town. She goes out in like other places.
In the nose here.
And like, for example, right now, as I'm sitting here, I don't know if I understand the difference between a cross-dresser and a transvestite from the perspective of this interview. A transvestite being someone, I guess the sexual pleasure is the difference, or the sexual and psychological pleasure, but I would imagine if someone is cross-dressing anyway, they would be getting psychological, like they would do it because they like it. So that part makes me uncertain. Like, what is the difference fundamentally? Is it the sexual arousal, or is it the emotional desire? I'm not exactly sure where that line is. So I'm here uncertain.
How did she do with it?
It started out at Halloween, which is very typical for a lot of
That's kind of funny.
standard fare, holy day of obligation for a transvestite.
Yeah.
Every Halloween, I would get dressed up in drag, and it began to really annoy her. And one Halloween, we came home and we had a big argument, and what she was afraid of was that I was gay, and that at some point in the relationship, I was going to pack up and leave with some guy.
Right.
And so
I just really want to speak to that for a second. Just the idea, like, finding out that your partner is cross-dressing, like, might be very threatening for a person. Not just because, like, you know, I don't like the idea of you being another gender, but sometimes it's fear of what this means for you as a couple. Like, will we be able to be together what if this cross-dressing means that you're gay? But I'm hoping that they're able to have that, that type of conversation. The holy day of obligation, I love that. I think that is very funny. I knew that the gays loved Halloween for a reason, and the queers is and now even our trans family.
for the first time, I began to really open up and tell her how I felt, and that I had a need to do this, and that in fact, I would do it when she was not around. It wasn't just Halloween. I was doing it on weekends when she was working and things like that.
And there's an erotic
Okay.
kick accompanying the experience. Huh?
Because that's when I started. I started at puberty, and there was a lot of eroticism attached to it, so that's reinforcement.
Right. Now let's understand that you want to say, among other things, as a transvestite, that there are untold thousands of your colleagues out there.
Probably hundreds of thousands.
And you don't wait in the bushes and molest children.
No.
Not all, but I assume you believe the majority of the males who cross-dress are straight.
Heterosexual, that's correct.
Many of them have...
So this might be... Ooh, Paris is Burning is it? Okay. Thank you. I might actually... Oh my god. Maybe we should watch Paris is Burning next. We should just watch all, like, gay history. I don't know. This is like I said, like there's something in this. I've always, guys. I'm sorry, I forgot to change the video. I'm gonna rewind it again. I forgot to switch the screen.
Transvestite. That there are.
But yeah, being able to just like hear about like different types of people and different types of ways that this was expressed a couple years ago. I don't know. I find this stuff very fascinating. That fear is why my ex is my ex. Man couldn't handle my drag. Damn, that's crazy. Like for me, like I don't know. I feel like in the like lesbian or community, like my wife was a lesbian, and I had always been pretty masculine, like dressed relatively masculine. I mean, especially when I left home, when I was teetering between home and her house, kind of, I did a little bit of both. Um, you know, couldn't really when if I had to do things to my family, I had to dress how I was supposed to dress or whatever. But as soon as I was out of the house, I rarely wear feminine clothes on my own. And then the more comfortable I got with my identity, the less and less I started throwing that shit away. Um, but I think that in that situation, it's a lot less threatening for her to see me get more masculine because there's a large range of like butches in the lesbian community. My wife no longer identifies as a lesbian and has had a lot of different types of thoughts, and she's had changes of opinion as we've kind of grown our relationship as well. But I would say that if a person transitions in a relationship, that is a lot of emotional shit. Kind of regardless, even if they're open to you transitioning, it's likely going to be emotionally provocative, and that's okay. Exploring these emotions and being able to have a conversation with these emotions, a conversation about these emotions is very important. But let's go back to the actual view. My bad. Like I said, we're still baby streamers here. Let's go.
There are untold thousands of your colleagues out there.
Probably hundreds of thousands.
And you don't wait in the bushes and molest children.
No.
Not all, but I assume you believe the majority of the male.
I obviously appreciate that and resent it at the same time. I resent that that's an idea that just because, like, in a situation, a male wants to wear women's clothing, that inherently makes him dangerous. I have heard that sentiment repeated so many freaking times. It's sickening to me at the same time. But it's obviously good to repeat the message. And the idea that these are, let's go to this next sentence and I have another thing to talk about.
Males who cross-dress are straight.
Heterosexuals, that's correct.
There. He just says he believes, well, Donahue and this other, the cross-dresser lady person, I'm not sure what the pronouns are because they've been switching around this whole time. I really don't know. But it was interesting because she said it was like it was a psychological need. There was something about it that was a need. And then there was like, what is the other part? And then it was like the being straight part of it too, is oftentimes the difference there. If any of you are familiar, what is his name? There's that guy. Damn it, I don't remember his name. But he kind of has coined the difference between the autogynephile and the homosexual transsexual. So that like Eve, the trans woman, or the transsexual woman, she is like she is a homosexual transsexual, and then the other person, I forget the name, would be a autogynephile, would be someone who is aroused at the idea of themselves being, and like these are just interesting is one word to use, like a theory that this guy came up with. And I would say like this is interesting, and mostly because I think like it's a framework that that does not fit everyone in it, because I would be certain that there probably would be some men who like it might just be a little bit interesting. Yeah, sorry, hold on one second. Let me read the comment that just came through. Okay, for real, I love sharing your envy transition stories. It's refreshing to hear someone also finding peace in the in-between and reinforcing your identity, not needing to meet the extremes of gender. Right, yeah. Playing around, and like, for example, I resonate a lot with the experiences of like these individuals, you know, obviously different pieces of different ones of their experiences, and like I don't know, it's fascinating to see myself in people, even though their experiences are slightly different than mine. And also, the other thing I wanted to mention was today I watched this video, and I might actually watch the video on a live stream one day of just because of that one line that she said. But she was talking and she was like, she has this like cute little southern accent, but she's like, I'm a transsexual, and I was diagnosed by 3 different psychiatrists, so I am the elite. And as soon as she said that, the nausea in my body, bleh, bleh, you're not elite anything. You're just a regular trans woman. Thank you for being an elder, absolutely, and I'm grateful to you as a trans elder. But that's kind of like where it ends. Um, and then she said, "This is going to be a very offensive video, so all of you non-binary people, get out of here." Stayed and I watched the whole video, so you can't tell what to watch. Miss Trans Woman on YouTube was being really weird. I would say like that's like the far end of transmedicalism that I don't like. I would put myself somewhere in the middle of the transmedicalist window or something like that. Um, just because of like for me it's about medical access in our current context, like because of the realities of the world, we must act in a specific way, and because of that, I feel driven, I guess, to have that mindset or whatever. But yeah, calling yourself the elite trans, uh, 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 so fucking annoying. But yeah, just so that society can easily label and identify us at a glance and impose those projections. Leanne, you need 10 points. Again, you need at least 30 points for that, because that was good. Exactly. We're not easy to understand. Our experiences don't need to be in a box for you. Words are used, you know, to categorize things, and sometimes those categorizations could be useful for some different reasons. I've personally in like TikTok lives, I've been talking about like the difference between transsexual and transgender and the utility and disutility of the differences of those words. And I was mentioning how utilizing a space for transgender individuals and transsexual individuals separately could be useful because passing language, for example, might be very triggering for a transgender individual, but very affirming for a transsexual individual aiming for that or something like that. I think that both of them should be able to explore those types of things. Like if a person wants to pass, I don't think that that's a sin or like a bad thing. And that is like a frustrating, that's frustrating to me. I've been NB my whole life, but damn, if I didn't have language, it's like, exactly. I didn't have any of that language. And so many people in this panel, pretty sure most of them, well, 2 of them that I remember specifically stated. Eve said that she didn't understand what she was until she read a book about it, and she understood then. And the other person said that a friend of theirs talked about the idea of living in man. And Blue says transmedicalism. I can't with that because, like, why? Let people be. And for me, like I said, for me, it's all about medical access. It's like there are some people who need medical access and some who do not need medical access as much or have less of a need. It's for me, it's like triage. Um, if there is a person who is in like for example, like deep distress and is like harming themselves every day because of their body parts, I'm going to put them in front of the person who just says, I would do better if I, you know, didn't have this body part. Or like, I'm okay, I am very uncomfortable with this body part, but I like, you know, could live for another year and I'm not gonna die. Like, you know, like for example, like that's to me, that's kind of where the extent goes. If you have medically significant gender dysphoria, that is something that needs to be detailed and communicated to medical professionals so that you can be treated appropriately. That's all it means for me. And then after that, do whatever the fuck you want. Yeah.
Many of them have children.
Many are married.
And you're here to say this is not a moral issue, you know, that you can, like every other person, behave in an immoral way, but this particular consensual circumstance injures and usurps the rights of nobody. Do I got it? Have I got this?
Well, we have to be careful about partners, because partners can be very offended about a cross-dressing husband. But
yes, they can.
Generally, the activity does not harm anyone.
So I assume your counsel would be, if you're a cross-dresser, not to marry the girl until you tell her?
I would counsel someone to be open before they get married, yes.
With all of these issues,
That's a great idea. That is a great fucking idea. Like, and it's also the idea that people have to be ashamed of being cross-dressers. Like, you shouldn't have to be ashamed of being a cross-dresser or just liking wearing the clothes of the opposite sex. I think that obviously, in my opinion, I have a lot of beliefs in my head about like what drives things like sexual arousal with cross-dressing and stuff like that. And it's not something that I hear as commonly in like FTMs, more in like MTFs, and I don't know if it's like a biological thing, a socialization thing. Like I'm curious as to what types of things that other than just like this person is only attracted to the idea of themselves as a woman, but obviously these things I'm not sure. My personal trend, my personal transition journey is limited by my own health, so I want trans medicalists to understand how these ideas can marginalize and other their own community privilege, and to be so firm that people must perform gender or must transition. I agree. No, I agree that people like, for example, like my definition of what of my kind of perspective of what it means to be trans, that you must have some type of discomfort or distress with being your sex and identifying completely with your birth sex. If you feel some slight dissonance or you feel better identifying as something else, that is all you need to be considered transgender. Now, if you're having more and more significant dysphoria as to where you need like medical interventions, then you're starting to cross the line into like you're transsexual and now you need medical care. That's how I mentally categorize it, and not in a sense that like you're more trans if you're transsexual, because some people, for example, have the desire to transition medically but cannot for a variety of reasons, whether that's health reasons, situational reasons, emotional reasons, different things like that. And also the idea that like, and yeah, so being transgender is enough. Like you don't have to be anything else. Yeah, in that sense, that seems like a way that's hopefully inclusive of yeah. I don't know if it's going to be I'm sure it's maybe some people feel left out of that, but trying to be as open as possible. The lack of language was something that's really holding us back from fully understanding that we can be okay. Access is a losing body everywhere, and it's harder for enough for binary folks to get it. So imagine being absolutely the amount of people like I'm pretty positive it was my I, like yeah I've had different types of things where people like assumed that I was like trans male when I'm not. Like medical professionals, different types of medical professionals have assumed that I wanted to be kind of seen as male because of the surgeries I've had. I've had to kind of detail them and let them know like no, that's not accurate. This is who I am as a person, and also this is something that gets in the way of me pursuing medical care just for the sake of my own anxiety. Not necessarily that like I feel someone has actually threatened me, but my own anxiety makes it hard to move forward with those things because you're very uncertain. Yeah. All right, we're gonna move forward.
It would be
Also, we might not get through this whole thing today because one, my mouth hurts, and this is also gonna be like 2 hours. So,
very unfair to have a partner that you cared about and really not disclose. Yeah. Although in my practice, I have a transsexual who is married who never told his wife. We have a number of transsexuals who are homosexual, but functioning the way they want to function, and why not?
Are you there, caller?
Yes.
Hold on. Also, if the fact that you have never told your partner, that's fucking crazy. That's crazy, by the way. I think that you should tell your partner your medical history. That's just my a personal opinion. But yeah. I'm at the stage of my life where reinforcing that autonomy of social transition, tell people who I am, it's not a phase, and they don't have to fully act it. Not. I love that so much. I love that. And I also, the other thing that I'm just thinking about is like how much emotional effort it takes to be a trans person and like continue to reinforce your identity to other people, or like not asking for validation, not accurate. Encouraging people to kind of like be supportive of your transition, kind of just saying like, especially family members and stuff. The stranger at the grocery store, maybe you can't really control how they perceive you, but people who are closer to you, trying to at least get them to understand where you're coming from. And just to see you as a person who's just trying to feel a little bit better in this really scary, freaky world. That's it. That should be enough.
You have a brief comment.
Yes, Phil, I would just like to say that maybe not the men that do it for their jobs, but the men that dress like women for their own personal self, they've got to have some kind of homosexual tendencies. He says he does it for psychological reasons.
He says no.
I have never been attracted to another man. Never, ever.
Why would you want to be dressed like a woman if you weren't? I mean, it's just really weird. I mean, in order to want to dress like...
And I think that's really funny because if you were a homosexual, wouldn't you just find yourself attracted as a male, like just being a regular male? Not just like that seems bizarre, but I'm not gonna lie that this stuff isn't, especially when people believe that sex and gender are the same. Excuse me, who you sleep with dictates who you are as a person, things like that. You believe those things and you're gonna have a hard time.
That's really weird.
What's the matter? I got a break here. What's the matter? Yeah.
There are advantages. You can share clothes. The budget is better.
Yeah, sit down. We got to wait. I'll give you a chance. I got a break. I'm coming back. We'll be back in just a moment.
I'd like to ask the one with the red blouse on.
Yes.
Did you always have beautiful legs like that?
You talk about Joanne?
Yes.
Yeah, I got these from my mother.
Yes. Yes.
I'd like to know from Joanne how your children adjust to this. Do they know? Do they get abuse, criticism?
I have a boy and a girl. My daughter is like totally accepting. She has no problem at all.
How old is
She is 14 and a half. My son is 16. And while he accepts the fact that I'm a cross-dresser, he doesn't like that I go out, that I go out of the house. I leave the house. And so we have a lot of rules and regulations about how I leave the house and when I come home or how I come home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the dresses, too.
That's fascinating to me. Like, I think that it takes a lot, like, whew, he must love his son. He must love his kid. Because that's, I don't know, she. I'm not sure what pronouns. I think that she was using she at the end. But, shit. That must be really, really hard. To know, like, to have a daughter that supports you, but for your son to just, it seems like ashamed of you. I'm sure that's heavy. And I'm sure that she would love to be able to end, but also maybe, I don't know, maybe this commitment to your kids or not wanting to overwhelm them. I'm not exactly sure what that's about. But yeah, I feel a little bit sad. For Joanne.
Two cross-dressers. Have you two ever taken a real close look in the mirror? They're very unattractive.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to tell you, boys, but...
Not.
The one does it for entertainment. I think that's great. If you're out there entertaining people, that's a ball. The one, well, that's a little different. Like, how do I explain to my children about, people like you? Like, you want to consider yourself normal, and it's hard for us to consider...
Yeah, that's the whole point.
And, like, I also, like, I hate these people and the questions that they're asking, and I also understand them. And I'm like, fair that you're asking these questions, because I'm sure things that people like those are inside thoughts. You don't ask that type of stuff to people. But this is a stage where people have the opportunity to kind of get everything out of their heads, and I think that really does show the difference. Like, I guess, like, if and I'm also assuming that Joanne doesn't like dress as a woman full time. It doesn't sound like it. So I don't know. Like, this guy is having a hard time accepting that he should accept someone else who, I guess, isn't consistently who isn't consistently presenting as the opposite sex, is just like less worthy of maybe understanding. I don't think that that's true. Leanne, exactly, that's like really not in your lane. That's not your opinion. Maybe not attractive to you, maybe attractive to someone else. Anyway, so Lillian again says, I feel on the medical professionals. I think that comment didn't show up for some reason on my thing here, but it showed up there. I want to read it. Get this big. Okay. Damn it. Never mind. It didn't work. Okay, never mind. But what I wanted to say was I feel you on medical professionals pathologizing gender and identity. And I have a friend in the southern state who had to go through the process just to get transitions. Like, I think that is the major downside to all of the medicalization stuff is, and I mentioned this before in the beginning, is the fact that when we medicalize, okay, the only way right now in America and other, what are they called, progressive or like developed countries with like transgender care is because you need medical care, you need a diagnosis. Even for me as a therapist, if I'm talking with someone who literally is just in therapy because they're like, they got a new job and they're moving and they just need someone to vent to, like, I have to give them a diagnosis to treat them. I don't want to do that. I'm legally required to. You know what I mean? So, like, I think me being a part of the medical profession in that way helps me, not helps me, but forces me to understand that this is how the world works right now. And we don't have yeah. Unless we just transform the entire medical system, which would be amazing. I would love that. But yeah, pathologizing gender is the only way for people to get medical access right now. Bummer. And story. No.
I never said I was normal.
Oh, so then don't ask us to consider
no
you
one
as
in this
normal.
room is normal, because there is no such thing as normal.
I want to know, what do you do about work? I mean, this takes a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. Do you go to work like this? Do you make a living? Does your employers know that, you know, the story behind each one of you?
This is what I do for a living. I work as a female impersonator. So if I can answer your question, you said we're not that attractive. Well, that may be true, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so they say. And another thing, not everybody is that pretty. It's what's up here.
Let's fucking go. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Using the eye of the beholder.
In your mind.
Like I see a boy and like very like feminine boy or like soft features and like wearing a really cute outfit or something like that. Like in an adult. Like I don't want creepy. But like yeah, an adult that's like I'm attracted to more feminine men. Like, but some people are like, that's disgusting. Like every time I see a feminine man, like I'm turned off instantly. But that's just, I don't know why that just happens for me. Same thing with masculine women. Like super buff masculine women comes up to me, I'm like, oh, I'm probably gonna die from this. Just being overwhelmed with cuteness or something. Like my wife is I would say she's pretty masculine, but she's a little bit of both. Yeah, which I love. She's amazing. But yeah, so like that doesn't. So saying that you're just not attractive, I mean, yeah, that makes sense to you. But yeah. See, Lillianne, this is the pain that I'm in. This is the agony. This is the reality that I'm in. This is not fun. I don't want this to be the reality, but I feel obligated. Like, because of this reality, this is the only choice that we have. So that means for me, like, I would want for, and like some of this stuff gets really complicated, and I struggle with the difference between making access easier and some of the complications that can come from making access easier. I won't get into those. But yeah, I'll have more conversations about my kind of beliefs on transmedicalism specifically in other videos, but that'll show up eventually.
Not what's here, and also what's here.
It's almost a compulsion.
Steve, what's the story? Work.
Oh, well, until this airs, no one at work knew about me.
That is Eve. The gag. That's brave as fuck. Oh my god. I'm like bowing. Like, this is amazing. It takes fucking balls to do.
Nick.
Yep.
Even though she has none. You know, LOL, trans joke.
I'm sorry, you want to say Eve?
Oh, I did say that I went to college for 2 years as a man. I took a semester off, had the operation, came back as a woman. And a lot of
Isn't that crazy?
people who met me either did not know about me, had no idea, or the students were very, very accepting of me.
Nick?
There's no problem at work. I started out as Nick.
You got your job as a man.
Yes.
And Lynn Edward Harris, how's it going for you in terms of employment?
Quite well. I think it's more important to my boss. He's more intrigued with my former bisexuality, I think, and I don't actually know that he knows about my first.
That's fucking hilarious. Oh my god. I can't believe I can't work with a bisexual. I can't. You're a bisexual? Like, that's hilarious to me.
29 years.
Do any of you have siblings?
I actually wanted to answer that question as well. Like, for me, I remember like when I was I did have a job, was it like 2 years ago? So I was looking for a job. That's a whole nother. But I was looking for new job, and I was writing up my resume, and I need to look up my resume because I don't remember what I did. I think that I put my pronouns on my resume, but I forget. I might have not. Now I'm forgetting if I did or not. I think that I did, and I like never had any issues. Like when okay, so I got it, like, so let me explain this. I got a job before I legally transitioned my name. So, Sorry, the bisexual. So I did not have my name legally changed. So my chosen name was on all of my kind of documents in terms of like uh littles, like a survey or my freaking that freaking called my resume. I just said my resume or cover letter, used my chosen name and did the interview with my chosen name, blah 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 blah. And I barely remember how I went through this, but I like was able to I think the they them, you know, in the bio made it kind of clear that I might have been trans or something. And then I in the not the bio in my when I did my interview, they them in my name. And then when I got hired, which I did get hired successfully, and they were incredibly supportive. Like both of the employers that I have were incredibly supportive. When I did legally transition and gave them the paperwork and everything, they were super helpful and supportive to help me change my documents and stuff like that. So I don't want people out here to be all terrified, you know, like all employers are going to hate you or no one's going to hire you because you're non-binary or trans. There are a lot of really open and accepting people. I will say that I got really lucky and I work with amazing people so far that are that are more incredible than other people that I've worked with in the past. So I feel like that I do kind of have an exception, but I'm sure that there are tons of other people who are going to be supportive of you. So continue living your life. Don't allow your transness to be something that like stops you who you are.
Yes.
I have a sister, an older sister, and when I first told her about it, I was worried, and kind of a light bulb went on over her head. She said, "Oh, that explains an awful lot." She knew there was something different about me, but didn't know quite what it was. So we're still very close.
Are you there? I'm glad you waited, caller. Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, the man, he just said he was a bisexual, but I was just wondering if he was when he was a woman, if he just had sex with men, and now that he's a man, if he has sex with just women, and which he really prefers.
Yes.
Thank you for calling in. Yes, when I lived as a woman, I preferred sleeping with men and a few women in between. And now that I've changed my social gender role, my sex preferences have not changed, and I prefer men exclusively.
So that you would describe yourself then as a gay male.
I would say a gay lifestyle would be a fitting.
Yes, and you wanted to add.
Oh, I want to say that
as the family counsel for the Gender Identity Clinic in Philadelphia, it's fascinating that we have this kind of discipline.
right.
Wow. And did you say Philadelphia?
Oh, I want to say that
As the family counsel for the Gender Identity Clinic in Philadelphia, it's fascinating
That's crazy. That's pretty close to me.
that we have this kind of discipline.
Right.
Gender identity, you got to go.
most of my work is with marriage and family counseling, and most of the most terrible cases I work with are heterosexual. So I want to go on record saying that. With transsexuals, with whom
I will say that, like I said, me being in like a gay relationship, I think helped make this pretty easy. Like it wasn't there were things that were challenging, definitely, as we were kind of having discussions, and not like, oh, I won't say that it was a perfect hiccup-free process or anything, but it was not hard. It was not difficult for me. But I'm also sure that there are other people who are gay who do have issues, who may be very, like, if you're maybe very gold star lesbian, you feel very committed to that idea, and the idea of like being with a trans man, like just so far outside of your desires. Like I'm sure that exists.
whom I have the most experience, the family really is crucial. And Eve, for example, had both a grandmother and a mother who were very supportive. Now imagine 2 generations being understanding of this process. It's unbelievable. So family
It is, even today.
is crucial, and it's a compulsion. They cannot live their lives in the role in which they were born.
Are you there, caller?
Thank you. I love to hear people just kind of make it very clear. Like, I don't really want this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird thing. Like, you don't want to not like parts of your body. Like, once you don't like it, like, you're kind of like, it just is reality at that point. I don't think people want that. And it's hard. And I was on a live stream the other day, and I was talking to this mom who was saying, like, it'd be hard if I had a trans kid, or the fact that it would be hard to see a person be so in pain because of their body. Like, it is really hard. Like, I'm sure for different people it's a different experience. You know, they're hard for different. And even like in this situation, like Eve and Joanne, you know, a transsexual and a transvestite, from the perspective of this interview, both dealing with difficulties and challenges, very different, obviously, but both struggling or having challenges.
Caller?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, Mr. Harris, now when you at 29, when you changed over, was it hard to find help from a doctor or with a psychiatrist or something? I was just wondering, was it hard, or did you just did it?
It was very difficult in the fact that a few psychiatrists I was obligated to see were very unsympathetic to my case.
Let me just say, what was the year of your surgery, the beginning of your surgery?
I must correct you, I've had no surgery whatsoever.
Right.
But it was 4 years after living in a official legal sexual limbo that I approached the Superior Court and was able to get my original birth certificate changed from Lynn Elizabeth Harris female to Lynn Edward Harris male.
Let's fucking go. I love that. And like, for example, these are the people, in my opinion, who have paved the way for us. Those people who've had the very uncomfortable role of saying to psychiatrists, like teaching psychiatrists who we are, like, oh my God. Yeah. It's, they've had to do so much of that shit. Like, for my name change, I just like I didn't change my other like documents, and maybe I'll talk about that in another video. But when I went for my name change, like, I was like, yeah, like, it's just a room full of people, and I was like, yep, I'm transgender. I would like my name to be fit with my appearance and identity. They're like, okay. You know, like, it was nothing. Like, they didn't care at all. But like, you can tell, I'm sure courts cared a lot more back in the day. I'm sure they really cared. So I do feel like indebted to them. It's similar to how I feel like a child of immigrants. Like, you feel this like weight, psychological on, like, I don't know, the sense of like wanting to do something effective with your life because your parents fought so hard for you to have a good life here. Like, it feels similar to that. Like, because these people have done so much to further life for themselves, and I think for all trans people generally, like, me living my life as a trans person feels like my little, I don't know if it's a gift exactly, but my little contribution, saying like, here's me doing my best to also hopefully maybe change perceptions, like these people did. 1,000-yard stairs. I remember almost losing my health insurance. Oh no. Y'all. And I've heard way other things, like people who have their sex updated from documents have into issues with insurance. Like, you don't need it. Why do you need gynecology? You're a male. Like, and having to explain so many things.
And it's presumed to be the precedent in California, if not the nation, because I've had no surgery, and it's on the basis of my unusual medical history.
Fuck yeah. Wait.
From Lynn Elizabeth Harris female to Lynn Edward Harris male, and it's presumed to be the precedent in California, if not the nation, because I've had no surgery, and it's on the basis of my unusual medical history.
Okay. You've changed my mind immediately. Yep. I just love to hear about precedent. That's really cool. It's really cool that he was the first case. That's crazy. And he like said, I don't need to have surgeries. I do not want to get surgeries. And I want to be recognized as male. And they said, okay. And then now we get to do that as well, which is crazy. I feel really grateful.
Your surgery began in 1970 something?
Yes, but 1970, 72.
Early 70s,
yeah.
years? And this was the decade when this kind of procedure began to...
Yeah, really, it was, the 70s were the time when it was, the social programs were still being funded more by the government.
We only started in '66 doing it in America.
Wasn't Johns Hopkins very much?
Hopkins was the first, and that's not such a long time ago.
So I assume you can get a sex change operation in just about any state in the union today, then?
No, there are only about 10 clinics and some private ones throughout the country.
And
there are about 10,000 transsexuals, by the way, in the United States.
And we'll be back.
My God.
Just
Woo! I don't know why this is just so fascinating. Things have changed. Things have changed. Damn it. Things have changed. Things have stayed the same. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, man, this has been very interesting. We watched half an hour, and that took us over almost an hour and a half. So we will watch the last 15 minutes. Hopefully tomorrow. I think I have availability tomorrow. If not, I'll do it on the day after Thanksgiving. But let me answer these question real quick. Could y'all explain the whole health insurance thing? We have a government-backed health system. To those who So it was so like for me as a therapist, like if someone comes in to seek me for therapy, they want to get insurance coverage, I have to say this person is now diagnosed with some type of mental health condition, even if they just come in and they're like, I'm usually pretty good. I just feel a little bit extra stressed out because I just got a new job and I'm moving and my dog died. Like, you don't need a mental health diagnosis for that, but I have to give you one legally for you to get health insurance. So if you're a trans person, legally for you to be treated with like either testosterone, estrogen, or get some type of a gender confirmation surgery of some type, you must have a diagnosis in order to receive insurance for that medical care. I believe that I hope that was what you asked. To reiterate that for what it's like, at least for Pennsylvania, and I'm sure that it's true in other because I work under I work under practitioners who are in several states, so and it's the same for all of the states that I work under right now. So there's that. Massachusetts is a helpful resource. Oh, in Massachusetts, there's a helpful resource for the name change process. I've been using Lillian for a decade. Wow. Damn, dude. And I thought I was taking a long time. And sorry, I don't mean to like like I'm not trying to drag you or something like that, but just like the way that I was judging myself for taking a long time, and it took me like I don't know to get the courage to do it. And the only reason why I felt so motivated to actually do it was because I was going on I went to Nicaragua. I got back like a week or two ago. And the year before, I went to Puerto Rico with some coworkers, and my legal name had to be read out a lot for a variety of different types of things, different like airport flights and different types of things, and it was awful for me. It was really bad. So I was like, I'm gonna not do that again, and I'm gonna get my name changed. And the trip was so much better. Oh my god, it is so nice to not have to worry about hearing your dead. Hearing your dead name all the time. So um, no, and like and I just appreciate I I'm not gonna lie, when you said an aged egg, what I was thinking of was like those ramen eggs that are like soaked in soy sauce so they get like all brown. Like, but they're very good. So I haven't I well, they look very good. And so I'll say that you are a soy sauce soaked egg and we love it here. And you're very good with ramen. Um, hopefully that's not an innuendo or something creepy. Uh, but I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys for a little bit today. Thank you so much for hanging out and being a part of the conversation. Once again, I want to be I'm not even sure. I was thinking about this, like what am I doing on the internet exactly? And right now I'm just exploring ideas. And that's honestly I did change my YouTube handle to that. I'm exploring ideas with compassion and curiosity. And I really do believe in that idea. Especially seeing what it's like for like people who are like me in the past, and I want to learn from them. You know what I mean? Learn about them. See what we can do to I don't know, create a better maybe we can create one of those again and do that with like a non-binary person and like I don't know, a trans medicalist or type of that'd be a whole different panel. ah, so stressful. Um the company pays school. Oh, the whole system. I was gonna say like a couple more things about American insurance. Is like you need to have a job. Most people have to get a job to get insurance. You can get private insurance. It's pretty pricey. We have a couple of like I think we still have Obamacare and a couple of national like insurance related things, and we have Medicaid. I think it's for seniors. Um, but but please don't. This is why I always, whenever my clients ask me insurance questions, I panic and I'm like, go ask administration. I don't know. So there's that. But thank you again, my friends. And please, if you're here, check out the Discord server. Um, and that's a great place. Like if you find a video that you're like, oh my God, I want to know what Mav thinks about this. That's the perfect way to get those things to me. There is a spot where you can share content. There is a spot also to chat during the stream. If there's something you don't want to say on YouTube, but you want to say it on Discord, you can say it there. We appreciate you all for coming in. And like I said, we'll come back to this sometime soon. And hopefully I'll be able to upload this as a separate video. Cut out all this rambling at the end. I've loved hanging out with you guys. Lillian and Blue specifically, who's been chatting with me. So